This is a blackened cheeseburger with an egg and, oh, get off there. With an egg and avocado. The flies here are horrible. But the burger looks great. It's gonna be messy. Oh, see, yeah, this is gonna be messy. Hello friends, family, total strangers. Today's video is about the sugar beet harvest. I am doing my kind of review of the sugar beet harvest, kind of telling you what it is, what it isn't, all that stuff. I'm currently in Pensacola, Florida, visiting my parents. And yeah, let's get right to the sugar beet harvest. The opening shots were from the campground that they put me up in, the RV park. So they put you up in a RV park site with electric. And there's, bathrooms and stuff at the campground. My campground did not have laundry, so I had to go to town to do laundry. Yeah. So anyways, let's get into it. Yeah, so first thing you should know is, yes, it's a work camper job. So they put you up in a campsite, RV park. There's different RV parks depending on, and your work site might be a mile away, it might be up to 20 miles away. Mine was less than a mile away, so it was great. I was right near my work site. And the campground worked out pretty good, so you don't pay anything for your campsite. It had an electric box, which I ran an extension cord to, and had a little electric heater, just like a little Walmart $20 plug-in electric heater. And it worked good for me. I also had a little electric one-burner stove that I bought so I wouldn't have to use my gas. And that worked out really well. And yeah, so, I mean, that's the campground part of it. So you get a site. So let's get into what the job is. You're not pulling beets out of a field. It's all mechanical process. So they have machines that go and harvest all the beets, and then they bring them to a piling site to store for the winter. So what you're doing is you're working at the piling site. And there are essentially 4 positions. There is the piler operator, who is almost always a returning employee. There is a skid steer driver, little bobcat driver, who is also usually a returning employee. There are the ground crew, which work, you're pretty much directing trucks. They pull in over this little in-dump area, dump their beets, and then you direct them forward and you return their dirt to them. So the machine separates the beets from the dirt, from the harvesting process, and then returns their dirt to them. So they get paid the farmers get paid for the weight of the beets minus the dirt. So they get weight coming in, then they dump their beets, they get their dirt returned to them. That's what we do. We direct the trucks, return the dirt, and then we just have a shovel and we clean up our area at the end dump. And I did that job for the first week or so. And then the 4th job is the boom operator. And I took over as the boom operator about a week in. So the boom operator, you have a little remote control and you just control the boom, so you control the pile. And our pile was an outdoor pile, and we had culverts so there's these refrigeration units with culverts that have to be laid by the bobcat driver, and it's a cooling system to keep the beets cool, to keep them at the right temperature. And So they lay the culverts as we're moving the pile back. The pile, our outside pile, was 30 feet high. And so I would operate the boom, we'd fill a corner, we'd sweep the middle and fill another corner and sweep the middle. And yeah, that was pretty much what I did. I have to say, having worked two different positions, the ground crew and the boom operator, I did prefer being the boom operator. First of all, it was easier on my back. I made it through the whole season with no big issues on that, so that's great. And also the boom operator, you're always doing something. You're always looking at how the beets are falling. You have to make sure that you don't bury the cooling units on either side, you know, that the culverts go into. And yeah, so it's actually a bit more stressful than the other job, than just directing trucks. But it's also a bit more engaging. Like you're watching how the beets fall, and there's a lot of nuance to it. So yeah, I really liked being the boom operator. It was much better for me overall. But I'm gonna cut you to some footage, and I'm gonna show you like just some footage of the different positions and some of the beet harvest footage. So yeah, here we go. Beet harvest. Yeah, it was a little dirty out there today. Like being in a Mad Max movie.
Kind of see us.
Woo! Number four. Number four. Four. Betty.
There's a big pile of beets. I have to say, I've been eating pretty horrible for the last 10 to 12 days. So we had a rain delay, so I went to town and got some vegetables. That's exciting. So I actually have some veggies in my life again. Yay!
So I should just make a quick note that time-lapse shot was done by our piler operator. She was awesome. And yeah, so guest footage from her. Now, that's kind of what the beet harvest is. Now, talking about what I thought about it. I loved it. I thought the beet harvest was great. I think I would have enjoyed it either way, but I really liked being the boom operator. You know, at its height, when you're in full swing, you're working straight through. You do get a 15-minute break or 20. I think we did 20-minute breaks. You get a 20-minute break, a lunch, and another 20-minute break. But when things are slower, so that the first week of just go, 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 it's full on, it's on. But after that, it slows down quite a bit, and so maybe you work for an hour, and then you take an hour off, and then you work for an hour, you take an hour off, and just sit in your vehicle. So yeah, it's not as strenuous as I think it seems. Like, oh, you're working 12-hour shifts. So yeah, you are working 12-hour shifts, but they're not that bad. They're not that hard. And it's not a super physically taxing job. So the way it works pretty much is the beet harvest starts around, they have you come in a few days early, and then it starts around October 1st. And then it takes as long as it takes. It can be as fast as 12 days. Last year, they were done with the beet harvest October 12th. This year, that was not the case. Our last day was the 31st of October, so it was a full month, and then I left November 1st. They allowed people to leave about a week before that if they wanted to, but I wanted to stay and get the money. And generally, if it goes that long, they'll offer you more money to stay, so I was making time and a half the whole last week, which was awesome. So I ended up making a pretty decent amount of money doing it. So you're working 12-hour days straight through until you're done, unless there is a break for either rain. When it's raining, they can't really harvest the beets because the fields are all mud, and they don't want to track all that mud on the roads, and their beet trucks will get stuck in it. So when it's raining, after it's done raining, they have to wait like a day or so for it to dry up a little bit. So it gets shut down for rain. It gets shut down for being too hot, which was the case this year, which is part of the reason that it took so long. For the first week or two, it was too hot to pile the beets. The root temperature of the beets was too high, so essentially they would rot if we piled them. So during that period, we didn't really start the beet harvest in full until around the 12th, I think. October 12th, which again was the day that they finished last year. This year we didn't start till the 12th. But that doesn't mean we were just sitting around. They would have us work a day, maybe for 8 hours or 10 hours or 4 hours, and then we'd have a day off. And then they'd have us work a day where either it was some training stuff, or they would have us pile some beets just for feeding the factory. So I was actually working at a piling site that was at the factory. So they have to keep the factory always running. If they let the factory stop, it costs a lot of money to restart it. So they just kind of keep it always running. So yeah, we were working some during that time that we were not doing the beet harvest yet. So those first 12 days, we probably worked about 5 or 6 days, partial days at least. And then the days that we didn't work, this was new this year, they started doing what's called stay pay. So they would pay you for 4 hours. So, you didn't get obviously a lot less money than if you were working, but you would get paid for 4 hours just to be there. Just that you were at the site there. And so it worked out pretty well. I made quite a bit of money, nice little chunk. I think all said and done, around $5,000. I think most people last year probably made more like $2,500 to $3,000. But the fact that it drew out so long means I made more money, and they started offering more at the end to get people to stay. So one of my suggestions is, if you want to do the beet harvest, make sure you budget in a month of time. So you can so if it goes late, you don't have to be anywhere, and you can stay and make time and a half. Or who knows, maybe even some years they get so low they offer double time. That was a huge, I made I made significantly more than the people who left October 24th when they released people if they wanted to. So I would say suggestion is if you want to do the beet harvest, build in a full month. And yeah, don't make any plans till November 1st. That way, if they're paying extra at the end, you can stay around and make it. So yeah, that's pretty much the deal. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a lot better than working at Amazon. They really treat you well. Like I was treated like a person. I wasn't treated like a number. And you know, I'm not going to do another video bashing Amazon. Whatever. Amazon has its own, you know, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. But I wouldn't recommend Amazon, and I would absolutely recommend the beet harvest. I feel like they treat you well, you make good money, and for me personally, I would rather work outside. I was working outside all day, which is great, rather than working in a giant warehouse with artificial lighting. So, yeah, and your breaks are paid, which is also a big difference from Amazon. So your lunch break is paid. Any time that you're sitting in your vehicle and just on break for an hour, you're getting paid. You don't have to clock out for it. So it's just a really well-run operation. I loved it. I imagine that I will be going back. And I think it's, when I just look at other people's videos too, I think a lot of people come back to the beet harvest and not many people go back to Amazon. But I should also say that I have an unfair review of Amazon because I didn't do the work camper job. It's a bit different if you do the work camper job. I actually worked at an Amazon warehouse just as a seasonal employee, and it's a different thing. But anyway, we don't need to go there. But yeah, that's pretty much my video. So overall, I had a very positive experience at the beet harvest, and I'd say there's a high probability that I will do it again. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. And if you don't want to like, subscribe, or comment, that's fine too. But thanks for watching.